Hello everyone, welcome to Clinosol Research YouTube channel. Let's discuss about interview preparation question, which is clinical data management and part 2. We are going to discuss about part 2 interview based questions today. I hope you have watched interview based questions part 1 for clinical data management. So we will be discussing 5 most important questions which are repeatedly asked in interviews. What are the questions which are being asked in interviews, how to put the answers for interview based questions for clinical data management. I'll be discussing this for today. So these are the 5 questions which I'll be focusing. So first question is, what is time and event schedule? What do you call it as time and event schedule? How you explain about time and event schedule? And the second question is, what are the difference between the paper CRF and eCRF, the electronic CRF and the paper-based system? And the third question is, what are the different, explain any examples of 5 different forms. And what are the standard forms? Give some examples of standard forms and study specific forms, the global forms which are being used across all therapeutic areas. What are the 5 different forms which are used, the standard forms which are being used? What are the examples of repeating form and what are the repeating forms? So the first question, without any delay, what is time and events schedule? So now before we go ahead with the time and event schedule, we should understand one of the most important topic, which is called as protocol. So with respect to protocol, we understand the interpretation of protocol to make sure that how the study has to be designed. So now this designing of the interpretation of protocol is called as time and events. In this time and events, it's a tabular format. In that, first we will understand about the visits which has to be created, including the scheduled visit and unscheduled visit and treatment visits and follow-up visits and end of study visit. So now any study which we will have the first screening visit, then you will have a treatment visit, then you will have a follow-up visit, then you will have an end of study. Now this we will understand the visits and we understand about the different assessments which are being used, different forms which are being used. And how these forms are being put into the visits is called as time and event schedule. So this time and event schedule in a clinical trial, it's a tabular representation of sequentially planned protocol events. How protocol events will be carried out and activities are carried out in the schedule of assessments. In each visit, what are the assessments to be performed is being outlined clearly in the Excel format or tabular format. Then it is called as time and event schedule. The protocol should clearly outline the activities that are performed from the study. This includes a E-plan or a plan of drug administration or treatment, a study treatment, list of assessments, including the safety and efficacy assessments, and also the protocol identification assessments, and also the procedures performed during a particular trial. All together in one tabular format, then it is called as time and event schedule. So time and event schedule, in a simple words, it is the visits and also the assessment schedule which is being coming in one format, then it is called as time and events schedule. So this is very important and this is the first starting point to understand how many visits and how many assessments are being performed in each visit. Now, what is the difference between paper CRF and eCRF? So this is most repeatedly asked question, and definitely we are using electronic CRF on the paper CRF. So paper CRF or traditional way of data collections, a better option if the study is small and having a smaller design or a not very major design or complex design. So, but eCRF are considered if the study is large and also a big complex design. So big complex design and sample size is large and data is so much high, then you are going with electronic CRF. So now a paper CRF is more time consuming, but it is very, very less time consuming because it is using the power of internet to enter the data from the CRCs and the data will be validated by CDMs and other team members. Chances of errors during the data transfers from the source document is very common. High errors will be there. Errors will be 0 or minimal during data entry because there will be auto queries and manual queries which are being raised on the system itself where we can understand the data is correct or wrong. Duplicate forms and data repetitions is highly possible. Duplicate forms or duplicate assessments or data repetitions will be highly possible in paper studies, while repeated data can be easily generated and can be minutely validated and reduced by using such as protocol ID, study ID, and subject ID, and also potential initials of the subject. We can identify the potential duplicates of the subjects and we can avoid the duplicate data. And linking of data is very difficult. Which makes data very much unclean or invalid data. are hectic and time consuming. Manual data cleaning may be a major concern for the paper studies. So linking of data between two related forms in CRF is very easy, and the fast cleaning can be done, accurate cleaning can be done, data validity can be done. So now paper CRF is traditional, more time consuming, chances of error are high, duplicate forms are more, and invalid data is so much high. But all these opposite words is your electronic data capture. Now explain any 5 different forms which are used in clinical data management. So we can explain about demography form, includes demography details like subject age, gender, date of birth, and race and height. Medical history form includes your previous medical history terms and also start date and stop date. And inclusion exclusion criteria. This form includes whether the subject is meeting all the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Lab form, the test samples which are being collected and what are the results which are being collected. It can be a central lab or local lab. Vital sign forms, which will include the blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, and pulse and weight. So these are 5 forms: demography form, vital sign form, medical history form, or lab form, or inclusion exclusion criteria form. So now, what are the examples of standard forms? The standard forms are which are used for almost all therapeutic areas and almost all studies which are being used. Then it is called as standard forms. Examples of standard forms which are included in demography form, medical history form, vital sign form, lab form, ECG form, inclusion exclusion criteria, AE form, and disposition form, and pregnancy form. So these are all forms which are being used across all studies as it is in any study. Then it is called as your standard forms. Now, what are the examples of repeating forms? So there are some forms which are being repeated, which most of times it will be unscheduled forms. It cannot be happening in one time. It might happen more than once, but we don't know how many times it might happen. The best example is adverse event of the subject. We really don't know how many times the subject will get adverse event. So based on that situations, we have to consider the adverse event as repeating form and concomitant medication as repeating form. Repeating form are those form which allows the site users to collect multiple instances of the same data. Multiple instances of the same data can be collected, like adverse event form or concomitant medication forms or etc. This kind of forms will be entered or created. Then it is called as repeating form. So coming back to about Clinosol Research, Clinosol Research is a training organization which provides training on clinical research, CRM, pharmacovigilance, and medical writing and regulatory affairs. And also we provide the certification courses, which is CRCs, and also aggregate reporting and imaging data review and clinical data science. So this is about the achievement of 2023. So we had 252 admissions and 141 placements and 260 blogs and 98 articles and 280 presentations and 72 industry expert sessions and 19 MOUs and 42 events and competitions and 24 workshops. So to know more about our training programs and training courses, you can contact us on 912-11-51622. So this is about 5 important interview-based questions we have asked or repeatedly asked in clinical data management. So we'll meet again, once again, with interview-based questions, part 3 with 5 more questions. Till then, thank you so much.